Call the July 22nd, 2019 work session meeting of the Portsmouth City Council to order. And Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Glover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lucasberg.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Ms. Simmons.
Here.
Mayor Rowe.
Here. Dr. Patton?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. This evening, the first presentation, Mrs. Erin Tremere, Director of Public Utilities, will provide a brief overview of the city's water system development plan. This plan addresses resiliency of public utilities for a system component level. The second presentation, Mr. Robert Moore, Economic Development Director, will provide an update on the Victory Village site development and recent action taken by the Economic Development Authority. The final presentation, Mr. James Wright, the city's chief engineer, will bring you up to date on several ongoing projects to include the Pavilion, the Churchland Bridge, the Sportsplex, and demolition projects. Mrs. Tremere.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Council. As Dr. Patton mentioned, this evening I will be providing a brief overview of our water system development plan. One of the primary goals of public utilities is to provide uninterrupted water service to all of its customers. However, the ability to do this depends on all of the various system components necessary for the production and distribution of drinking water to function together continuously. Service outages are possible when a component fails and there is not a backup. The standard approach to risk reduction is to provide a duplicate system component. However, within the confines of our water system, this is not always a viable option. The purpose of the Water System Development Plan is to comprehensively assess and reduce the risk impacts due to any component failure. The public utilities water system is comprised of 5 major components. These include 4 surface drinking water lakes, 4 surface water lakes, the 5 deep water groundwater wells located in Suffolk that make up our drinking water sources. Also located in Suffolk is the Lake Kilby Water Treatment Plant. Once water is produced, it is conveyed to our customers through our transmission and distribution pipes and stored for peak demand in our water storage tanks. The approach to this study is to evaluate the system so no single component failure can take the system out of service. To do this, we will evaluate the likelihood and consequence of failure of the system components. A computer-based algorithm will be used to evaluate and identify the optimal solutions at the lowest cost. These evaluations will include the mitigations of major risks to include the loss of Lake Kilby Water Treatment Plant or our water supply sources. The study will begin shortly and will be completed by June of 2020. Any questions?
Questions?
Bill? How's the capacity?
Well, we have a 33 million gallon a day treatment plant for our capacity, and we're average day about 17 million gallons a day, so a little more than half capacity of what we're using.
With this intense heat that we've been having, is there a drought in the forecast?
We have more water than we need right now. Unfortunately, we see over the last couple of years, we've been very fortunate with that. And if you go out to the lakes, particularly right near Lake Kilby, you can see the water going over the spillway most of the time.
Even now?
Even now, because then we're going to get 5 inches of rain tomorrow, and all of that comes from our watershed into our lakes. We have about 62 square miles of watershed that feed our lakes.
A related question, have you had to lower the pumps any at all for our wells as the ground level of the water in that underground aquifer?
No, we haven't. So our groundwater wells are approximately, actually I brought that with me because I thought that might be a question. We have 5 groundwater wells, deep groundwater wells. They range from 655 to 820 feet below the existing ground surface. And they take water from the Potomac aquifer. And no, we haven't had to lower any of them. They're fixed. the screening is.
Any other questions? Thank you, Doc.
All right, thanks, Mr. Premier. Mr. Moore. We're not going to be in here long.
Right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. I'm here this evening, as Dr. Patton stated, to provide an update on where we are with the redevelopment of the Victory Village site, and also to talk briefly about what happened recently at the Economic Development Authority meeting and some of the information that was passed along. First, want to kind of catch everyone up on the site, get just a brief history. Certainly, there were 48 acres that were acquired back with the assistance of City Council. Certainly, we thank you for that with the EDA, and that was done in December of 2018. There were 3 additional acres that were acquired early 2019, right around March of 2019. Really want to give you a bird's eye view of the site, so I'd like you to take a look at this.
Can you orient everybody to, you probably plan to do that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If we could 2 seconds, that would. So, Mayor, I'm hoping that answered your question.
Dance music. Dance music.
There's a theme behind that, so let's just be clear. Certainly, when we talk about that site, we have to talk about the marketing of that site. Once that site was acquired, and we acquired all 50 acres that you see there, the Economic Development Authority instructed staff to do some due diligence and come back with what we found to be the highest and best use on the property. Staff came back with about 4 recommendations or opportunities. One being a commerce park, another being maybe an activity center or kind of entertainment center, and then a couple variations of an industrial park. Looking at what is out there, thinking about what we have on the horizon with the proposed Portsmouth casino, staff is recommending that the site be utilized as an entertainment district anchored by the proposed Portsmouth casino. Economic Development Authority agreed, and they did vote and pass a resolution on July 16th to move forward in that direction and market this site as an entertainment district. We feel that this is district ready or entertainment district ready because when you look at the information with regards to and the study information that we have regarding gaming, but as well as being a destination, you're pulling from a 2-hour radius. So when you look at that 2-hour radius, certainly we have 1.7, really now about 1.8 million individuals in Hampton Roads. You're looking at within a 1-hour drive, 2.7 million people. Within an hour and a half, 4.1 million people, let alone all of the people within North Carolina. And certainly when you're looking at an opportunity for gaming, 21 and over, you're looking at 1.2 million people just in Hampton Roads. This proposed district, again, would be anchored by the gaming and entertainment facility. It would include a 3,000 space parking garage, a 4-star hotel, approximately 30 restaurants and retail outlets, a cinema, movie theater, as well as creating about 4,000 jobs. And this is all proposed, and this is all going to be based off of how this lays out on the site. Certainly when we talk about the entertainment facility, we're talking about more than gaming. We're talking about an investment of upwards of $550 million. We're looking at a facility that has about 400,000 square feet, looking at 2,000 jobs just in that facility alone, 20 restaurants and retail outlets in that facility, a 3,000-seat performance venue, as well as part of that 400,000 square feet, 30,000 square feet of meeting and convention space. Now, you take all of that and put that together, and it could lay out like this.
Awesome. Yeah.
So this is not, this is just a layout to let you know exactly for discussion where we are, how this could lay out, how it could be programmed on the site. To kind of orient you, again, you see Interstate 264. You also see, my blinker's not working, but Interstate 264, Victory Boulevard. You see, obviously, the hotel, entertainment facility, parking garage, TCC off in the distance, the retail outlets, and then the cinema off to your right. Again, this could all change. This is just to see how this would lay out this type of use on the site. Now, being adjacent to TCC also creates a great pipeline of opportunity for an entertainment district because you already have culinary, hospitality courses. You also have mechatronic courses, which will be the electronics that deal with and fix those table game or slot machines with regards to the gaming. We are very excited about this. And again, we understand that our recommendation and the EDA's approval is to locate the proposed casino here. With that, staff has recently traveled, staff being economic development as well as the city attorney's office, have traveled to speak with JLARC and the lottery board to update them on this new site. I will tell you that this site was well received and they were ecstatic about the opportunity because, again, when you look at the information that is involved with choosing sites such as this is a superior site with direct access off the interstate and 50 acres.
They had actually invited you.
Yes, sir.
We get an email from JLARC saying we're about ready to start our study.
Yes, sir.
As required by the General Assembly.
Yes, sir.
And
And that
I
was the
gave it
best
to the
time as
city
any.
manager.
Right. Yes. And that was the best time as any to update them on the new site.
All right, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Meister Economic Consultants also joined our City Attorney and our Economic Development Director at the meeting in Richmond with JLAR. And this consulting firm has conducted the Economic Impact Study. And this firm was retained by City Attorney Ashby because of the legal aspects of this process. And the consultants presented their findings to the JLARC, which is the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission. And with the consultants having already presented to JLARC on last week, the earliest opportunity for both Mr. Meister and Mr. Repper to come before City Council to present the identical findings. The availability is July 30th, and we tentatively have a 10 a.m. because both of the consultants are coming off of the West Coast. And if they can have a morning meeting, then they can get a flight out the same day out of our regional airports back to where they are coming from, Colorado and California. And I will turn it over to the mayor for further discussion
Well,
with you all.
I've talked to each one of you about having a call meeting on the 30th at 10 o'clock so that we can hear this presentation. And it's my understanding, too, that what they gave JLARC was preliminary, and this will be a refinement,
Yes,
final report.
that's right. You will
That
get
we
the
will
final
all
report.
hear for the first time.
That's right.
Correct.
In the open session.
An open session.
10
So
o'clock.
with that, we don't need, I'll just send out a call letter on behalf, but we'll declare it tonight that we'll have a public hearing, not a public hearing, a public meeting to be briefed by our our staff and the economic consultants.
Yeah.
Are we going to have it in the regular council chambers so there's room for people to sit?
We will that work to?
Yes, we
can-
have talked about it.
Yeah.
We could make that available.
No, we want, I think that's a grand idea. Yeah.
Good. Good.
And so if you would get the word out too, publicly, that we're having the meeting.
Right, we will.
Okay.
All right.
Question right here on
Sure.
the site?
Yes.
The 50 acres, what this comprise, is there still room or space for a medical center, some kind of health facility, or is that a whole nother plan?
No, there is space. Again, this is just a conceptual rendering. As you can see, there's parking galore out here. I think there's an opportunity to really program the site the proper way. We're really feeling like where you see the restaurant and retail outlets closer to the other side of Greenwood Drive, that's probably more conducive, to it, more attractive from an access standpoint. But we are looking at those opportunities. This would take down the entire 51 acres, if you will.
Okay, Elizabeth?
I think Shannon was ahead of me.
Shan?
So, a couple of things. First question is, I know, I know you'll remind me, did we ever talk about, because of the location of the college out there, did we ever talk about a cluster, like a tech cluster of tech companies? Have we abandoned that, or is there still an opportunity to have a focus on technology industries coming into that sector as well?
We have not abandoned that from a standpoint of where that being in the city. That is, at this point, seems to be more on the other side of the city, to more the Churchland area, where you have the Simmises, the Tri-City buildings, the Mass One buildings. We have a new data center, as a matter of fact, coming up there, 25,000 square foot data center. So that's more conducive to where you are with the Tri-Cities. Certainly there's an opportunity, and this, again, is just a conceptual rendering.
Sure.
You have an opportunity to lay out several different things, but it seems to be more conducive out there.
This is related, if I might jump in. Can you point out the property that the EDA also owns? It's not,
We gotta make sure we get.
If you look north of
We saw it.
Tower,
Try it again.
Yeah, it did come up. Mhm.
did you see it? Can you see it now?
it's north of the
Tidewater
Tidewater
Community College parking lot.
label. Is that green land up there that's
Right up at the
wooded?
top.
And then if you come back to where the parking garage, is that owned by the real estate holding company, Cygnus?
Yes, sir. On the right behind the parking garage is owned by Cygnus.
There you go.
It's me.
Oh, it's you.
There you go.
See,
There you go.
what'd you do?
There you go. We need to upgrade to one of those.
What, a light came on?
There.
Everybody's eye out. That's what
Yeah,
lights me.
you're on an angle. Right. You have to be straight.
You have to be straight. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't working.
See, you're to an angle.
I'm to an angle.
Yeah,
So, I
so
will
stand
ask for
down there
assistance.
and point.
All right, you
Out of
guys.
the shot here.
There you go.
So this is the acreage that is about 32 acres that is currently held by the EDA. This is the acreage that is held by Cygnus.
Okay, so there's room.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Elizabeth, you had a question?
Yeah, you talked about, it's minor detail, but I'm just curious. You talked about 30,000 square feet of convention space.
Yes.
Tell me what I don't know what 30,000 square feet is. What is the Renaissance or the Marriott in Norfolk or the Maine or something that, or the
From a size standpoint.
Beach?
Okay. Sports Hall of Fame is 26,000 square feet.
Okay, that helps. Up both floors.
Both,
City assessment.
yeah, both floors you're looking at about 30. If you look at the footprint, you're at almost 30,000 square feet. That's the best way to kind of think about it.
Billy, you got an answer?
The Renaissance is just under 25,000
Yeah.
square feet.
So,
Of convention space.
Convention space.
Okay, thank you.
but if you want to see it from a building standpoint,
Yeah.
I would say the Sports Hall of Fame is the most like that space.
Thank you.
And that would be more than likely 2 stories as well. So an opportunity to really expand that.
Excuse me.
And again, this is just a conceptual.
Yes, yes.
Very good.
All right, so
He's not finished.
basically the process and next steps. What we are looking for at this point would be to enter into an MOU with the developer/operator. That would be within the next 60 days. During that same amount of time, we'd like to start master planning and have some community input. We want to start working with the planning department and engineering and utilities to really lay this out. Certainly, the city does not have at this point districts, if you will, but we're looking to create one alongside planning and their new zoning ordinance. But we are looking to have at least 2 public meetings for additional input on what they would like to see in this district. That's going to be between August and November of 2019. By December, we're hoping to have the rezoning application, and again, that's all going to be based off the input that we receive. But the rezoning application submitted to obtain approval by February 2020, and then a full-blown development agreement March 2020. With that, answer any questions.
Questions? Shannon?
And I guess my question is, a lot of this is hedging on all those approvals and the referendum in terms of getting the go-ahead on the casino.
Actually, what you have is, we're moving forward. If you notice on the agenda, as far as the next steps, we're actually looking to move forward no matter what the legislation states. We are looking to move forward on the entertainment district. The anchor would be the casino at that point, but if the anchor were to change, then we could change that.
Good point.
Follow up on what Shannon asked. If you recall, the General Assembly, when they enacted the legislation for casinos, they directed JLARC, which you mentioned, but JLARC's got to give its report back to the General Assembly by the 1st of December. And so that would allow the General Assembly to take a look at the report and find out where they need to tweak the legislation that they passed in 2019. There are a lot of things that could happen. The General Assembly could say, we're going to pick the operator. We're going to issue license, and the only thing that you're going to do is supply the land. That's the worst possible situation to be in. So we need to be vigilant as we go forward. We need as much flexibility at the local level.
That's right. So yes, sir, we are looking to move forward with this entertainment district
It's not going to stop us.
regardless.
I mean, if they do something like that, then that
We still, right.
calendar doesn't fit.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bill? Okay. Questions? Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Work by the EDA.
Yes,
Thank you all.
yes.
Mr. Wright? The resolution does. Resolution is.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. I'm here to give you a few updates on a number of engineering projects. I'll first start with the pavilion. As you look out the window, you'll see that the new mast has been installed, and we're attaching the cables and the mast ring. We're about to enter a transitional period where there is a period between when we complete that portion of the mast work and the canopy installation starts. The additional items that we found that we need to address, the electrical, we've split them in 3 categories: electrical, facility and ADA issues, and some structural issues. There's a period of time in that transitional period where we'll be addressing those items that we need to address so as not to damage the canopy. Once canopy installation is complete, we'll complete those remaining items. And then there's the breakdown of the cranes, and then the restoration and remaining work that needs to occur.
Bill?
James, will the installation of the canopy be after the potential hurricane season?
No, it'll occur. It'll start on or about the 15th, whereabouts of August.
Okay, so the installation will start
Yeah.
about that time?
Correct.
Right.
Also, have we discovered anything with the mast that was taken down that would lead us to believe that was something other than calls,
We've taken.
workmanship?
We've taken the mast down, and it's stored actually on site, actually in the visitors parking lot. The engineering firm for the insurance company has been in contact with both the contractor and our on-site engineering firm, and they're working to schedule their inspection to take a look at that mast to make their determination.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Will this be a forensic type evaluation of the?
Yes.
And the city attorney is coordinating with these companies coming in to look at it.
So everything is pretty much on schedule as you see it.
Unless we find something else while we're out there, yes. Everything else is on schedule.
Okay.
Okay, church and bridge replacement. We moved the bid date back to August 6th. We had to issue several addendums to answer questions from potential bidders. It seems like from the pool that came to the pre-bid meeting, we have about 10 viable prime contractors that are interested in the project. We intend to issue our last, hopefully what will be our last addendum sometime this week. If there are no additional questions, I anticipate the bids will open on August the 6th. And then we'll proceed through evaluation of the bids and contracting, getting the contracts in place. Once that occurs, probably towards the end of the year, we'll see construction start. And just for benefit of the public, this project is being bid with our NWBE program, so there is a goal on this project.
Mr. Wright, were there any international companies to attend the pre-bid?
All the companies have a U.S. presence, but some of the companies are larger, so I do think that they do have an international presence, but I can't say there are international companies because they have the U.S. presence.
Okay.
With all the highway and bridge work that's being done under the HR TAC, almost $4 billion worth, do you see that as being a plus or a minus for our project?
Potentially problematic. There are a couple of things we've seen recently in some of the bids. Steel prices, because of tariffs, have gone up. But because of all the work that's been going on at HR TAC and in the state, the larger contractors are going to be busy, so you have the potential that some of the more skilled contractors may not get the job because they'll price it because they have enough work. And so if you end up with a smaller contractor, it may be challenging during the progress of the work.
Shannon?
So I just want to confirm, you said that, because a lot of my neighbors are asking me, when's that bridge going to start to get fixed? So we anticipate everything going as you had indicated, potentially at the end of the year, construction would start?
Yeah, and a lot of that will depend on getting the contracts routed and executed, and then we have to go through the submittal process, and so a lot of that's back and forth between the contractor and us making sure that the submittals are right before they actually get on the ground. So that being the case, best case scenario is that they'll be on the ground before the end of the year.
And are we still staging on either side of the river there, or
we don't
be on barges? What's
as far as staging, that's means and methods, and we leave that up to the contractor.
Okay.
So that has not been decided.
Very good. Thanks,
You're
sir.
still starting on the newer bridge first?
Correct. You have to rehabilitate that one so that one can take the traffic before you start to demolish and replace the old bridge.
Okay. Thanks.
Say that again, Mr. Wright.
You have to rehabilitate the newer bridge, with newer 74, the newer bridge, to make sure that that's all the work on that is done, so you can release a contractor from that liability. He puts traffic on that bridge, and then you demolish and replace the older bridge.
And how much time is the rehabilitation of the new bridge?
About 6 months.
Oh, 6 months, okay.
Is that mostly roadway
For
for the new bridge?
it's concrete work underneath the piers. There's some joint work, some railings, some lighting, and so it's a combination of a lot of factors that go into rehabilitation.
Do we anticipate more traffic with these rehabilitations and adding in, or about the same?
I'm not sure by more traffic. I mean, typically the High Street gets a lot of traffic.
Lots of
In general, there are some people that are gonna either go around alter their schedule to leave early to beat the rush or what have you. We've seen in the past when we coded that one decking that a lot of people found either an alternate route or changed the time that they travel to avoid the backups and delays, but there will be some backups and delays.
Related question, what's the total daily traffic on that bridge?
It's over 30,000 vehicles.
Dr. Pam?
Mr. Wright, when we had the 2-lane of traffic on the side that's the older side months ago, we had that over there because they were doing what over here?
So there's been several things where we've had down to 2-lane traffic. There was the utility project that they had on this side, but they also had some work on the Churchland side, and that had shut the bridge down traffic-wise. We had some utility work by one of the private utilities that had to shut the bridge down, but we also, because we're required annually to do a bridge inspection.
You're correct.
We had to do the bridge inspection as well, which
We were
for a
doing
period
the
of time.
public utilities work down there that they
ma'am.
had to put all those major pipes and everything, and that's why we were on that side. Okay. It wasn't so much anything on the bridge, it was getting across. And
Correct.
That whole side closed off.
Yeah, it was traffic control because
That's
of the
right.
advance warning that you need.
I remember now.
Next project.
Okay, Sportsplex. If you've been out to Sportsplex lately, you've seen that the site work has been completed. So you have 2 new multi-purpose / football fields that have been installed. You have parking, you have stormwater management, you have a walking trail. That portion on what we call the recreation side so far, the fence. The ugly fence has come down and it's been opened up. You have some landscaping, and you also have building number 10, the classroom building, has been demolished in the back. We're currently working with the planning department, is working on a master plan for the other portion of that site, and we opened bids, I think this week, for abatement of one of the buildings and demolition of another. So we're moving forward with the Sportsplex to turn that into a viable amenity for the community.
Shannon?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I think the progress that you guys are making over there is welcome, and it looks very good, and things look to be improving significantly.
It's
Ugly fence is
a-
fun.
it's a lot of work and a lot of teamwork from the departments and operations portfolio.
Good
So
job.
it's a team effort.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that, it is recognizable because I do travel that way from time to time, but are we planning some kind of opening or some kind of ribbon cutting or
When we
something?
get there.
When we get to a point
Yes,
where
we will. We
can-
will.
I mean, at stages, maybe.
Yeah,
where
no,
people-
once we get what is going on now done, which is a brand-new facility from 2015 when I came,
Yeah.
we will host something.
Okay.
I will mention also that working with Mr. Pace's department, the marketing communications drone has been flying the site during this process, so you'll be able to see the transformation of the site from start to finish with the drone work. So I'd like to thank, I forget his last name, but Aaron in the
Cohen.
department
Aaron
for his assistance.
Bill, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Next project.
Okay, our building demolitions projects for economic development. We've completed the work at the former Evans Electric site on High Street. The former Mary Jane Bakery site is currently under demolition. We're about 60 to 70% done with that site. The last set of buildings in that contract are the former police administration buildings right here on Crawford, the 700 and 710 buildings. And so once they finish the Mary Jane site, they'll move on to those sites. That'll complete those demolitions for economic development.
Questions?
Yes, and I know that was from the derelict structures bill, Senate bill that was given out. Was that used through derelict structures
No.
to take down Mary Jane and, no?
Those were CIP funds.
All CIP.
Okay, okay.
But I
And
think
we
I-
are, one other demolition is the St. Paul Church on Washington.
No, Mark's.
St. Mark.
St. Mark's, not St. Paul's.
St.
Not
Mark's.
St. Paul's.
Not St.
Let me
Paul.
say that louder. Not St. Paul's.
And I was surprised when, because I was thinking of St. Mark's being over off of Tennessee Avenue, but that church was named St. Mark's, so that demolition will be taking place very shortly.
As part of all this work?
This is another contract, but yeah, it's coming down. It's not a part of that, the EDA.
All right, let's, noise down, please.
The only, I guess, other significant project that I can think of at this time is the next phase of the seawall, which is down by the former Holiday Inn site. We're reviewing the plans and specs now, and hope to have that out for bid within the next, say, 2 weeks.
Portside, what's the schedule? I know we have to let the ground settle, and I know it's grass there now. When do we anticipate some construction activity?
We have in your CCEB the processes that have to take place in order to restart. We are close to, I don't want to say settling, but working with the contractor in regard to all that he did. And then we had all disassembled and removed. And so I don't know right off, or Mr. Wright may not be right off to name the 6 things that are in what the stages are, what moving forward.
But there's still some stages.
It's in there is what we're to do.
Yeah, but as far as, the settling and all
No,
of that.
the settling was settling when they're going to have to come back and do that. We took all that off.
No, the consolidation of the soils.
Consolidation, compaction of the soil.
That was all taken away
That
when
was
he
removed.
restored
That would
the
have to be all
site.
done again.
That would have to be redone for whatever goes there next.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Built back up.
Because
gotta
that
be
was
built back up.
floodplain.
We took everything down.
It wasn't for compaction, it was elevating where the structure would be elevated because of the flood.
So that still has to be done.
That would have to be a restart
Has to
of
be
that.
redone.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So it's going to be some time,
Look-
obviously.
If you would look right off, and we can bring it back tomorrow, bring the sheets so
okay.
you all can always have it. I will.
Yeah, it'd be good to
Okay.
update the public as well, viewing this.
All right, we
I
can
get a
bring.
lot of questions, I don't know about y'all, I get a lot of questions about Portside, what's going to happen there.
We could bring it back with what we've already provided tomorrow.
Maybe for the benefit of the public that's watching this, because I get these questions a lot because of the Economic Development Authority, the demolition at the old Evans Electric and the old Mary Jane Bakery is to make those properties more attractive for sale by the Economic Development Authority.
Yes.
The 2 properties that used to be police offices across the street from City Hall that he was talking about that are in the last of the demolition contract, Economic Development has already entered into an agreement with yet a new developer to the city for additional luxury apartments across the street. Not any of the developers that we already have. A new developer into the city whose name escapes me right now. But that one is ready to roll. The others are for sale if you have your checkbook.
Chen?
Can I ask a question? And maybe I'm missing something. I understand those buildings had been there, Evans Electric and the bakery. Why does the city demolish buildings to make them more attractive, when I guess if a developer really wants to build something there, shouldn't they be the ones to tear it down and put something new there? I mean, why does the city bear that expense? I'm asking the question.
2 things. Dr. Patton,
Mayor.
I have personal knowledge that the Evans building was like a catacomb. I mean, it was really
Nobody was going to touch it.
cut up internally. I had been in the building
And you knew that.
about 5 years ago. Yeah.
But I guess my point was, if I was a developer and I had a project on a piece of land that I wanted to build,
Good question.
and that building is there, why are we as a city taking the financial expense of tearing it down when a developer, if they truly want to build on that location in that spot, they bear the expense to tear it down? I'm just asking the question.
Mayor, I would like for Mr. Moore to, if we would allow, to come forward and answer the question, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Is that all the projects that
Yes.
you?
Yes, sir. To answer your question, I'm sorry. To answer your question, the Economic Development Authority has owned that property for several years. We have marketed with a building on the property. We've attempted to acquire additional properties around it. Because of the cost that we acquired that property, previously, it was a low cost. We acquired it at auction. So we saw that the demolition would be an investment. There's also some environmental concerns at one point, especially with the Mary Jane site. So to have a site shovel ready, it is more advantageous for us to bear in some of that cost, so that way when we do turn it around, there's more value in a shovel-ready site than there is a site that, for example, you will have to take a building down. So, for example, let's say the cost to take the building down is $100,000. They don't need the building, they just want the site. They may try to negotiate and say, well, you know what, it's going to cost me $100,000 to get the site ready, so let me lower the price that I offer you because I'm going to bear some cost. It's a give and take. It's a risk that we thought was necessary in order to justify how.
But to your point, just like you said, if they want it, they're going to bear the cost, and we're paying for it. So it's at the end it all balances out. That was my only point. But I understand. I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense. I mean, I got you.
All right, you said mid-bill.
With all of the demolition and the Churchland Bridge and all of the other sportsplex, what was I know we had, I remember getting a presentation on all of our CIP funds that were used for this, but do you have a total of everything with all of these projects and to include the demolition?
I do not have right off the top of my head from a standpoint of the demolition.
Yes, could we get that?
I can get that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
It's in the budget book.
Right.
Bill?
My question was, if they're, given the age of those buildings, can the city or EDA actually convey a building if there's known asbestos or something that's in need of abatement?
The city would, if there's known asbestos in a property that we own, the city would have to clean that before that property or building can be made available to someone to
So that
purchase. That's the
expense-
law.
That expense might end up being more than actually a demo in the building.
Could be. That's exactly right.
Depending on the situation.
Correct.
Yes.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, members of City Council, I'm going to ask Mr. Moore. We had a consulting group to come in and speak to the EDA in it may have been 17 or 18, about shovel-ready sites.
Yes.
And that a city, and they were at the Economic Development Authority conference.
Yes.
They were outstanding, and the attendees of the conference wanted the consultants to come and speak to, and I think, Mayor, they came and spoke
did.
to council.
They did.
They
Timmons
did.
Group.
They came to the EDA, the Timmons Group,
Timmons
and then they came to council, and they shared that to move forward with development, whereas we used to just wait and see if somebody's going to come. It's been 15 years, nobody's come. You get a shovel-ready site, and they are going to come.
Yes.
And with this said, there are inquiries all the time now that developers see these buildings are moving.
Yes.
And something's going to be going on shortly.
To our new council members, were you present when that presentation was made? And if you weren't, it might be good to reissue that because they
The Timmons Group.
classified the sites in categories.
Tier 1, Tier 2.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
We can get that.
yeah.
Okay.
Paul?
I like to think that in the past, that might have been feasible to do these things, but where we are in time and space now, with all the interest in our city and all the businesses that are definitely going to attract and all the possibilities that are seen here, maybe we need to act differently and put a little more of this on the investors, if at all possible, because that's how it goes. When we weren't as desirable, I can see us doing what we can, but At this point in time and space, we're extremely desirable because of the port situation with the military and stuff like that. So maybe we need to kind of change our thinking and, upscale our thoughts a bit and give a little more of that responsibility to those folk who are coming in, because we're not a mere commodity now.
Yes, sir.
We're about a safeguard or
Yes, sir.
something.
We agree. I mean, I can tell you that this has been on the, as far as a CIP project, this has been several years in the making. So this is not something that we decided on last year or the year before. I can tell you that activity has picked up. And our city is a lot better off than we were, say, 4 or 5 years ago from an economic development standpoint, from an attraction standpoint. Again, to bring it back to where we were in the previous presentation, that is why a site such as the Victory Village site is so attractive, because that is, for all intents and purposes, other than taking down some trees, shovel ready. That is what you would call probably a tier 3 site, maybe even tier 2, because there are some additional utilities that may need to be placed in there. But at the end of the day, that is one of our best sites other than the waterfront. We are looking at how we do things, being more fiscally responsible with what we're doing. Again, the EDA owns those properties, so the EDA, certainly with the assistance of council and sometimes at the direction and collaboration, work on these projects. But I will tell you, from this standpoint, those buildings are not being knocked down in vain. Okay? I can't get into any more detail than that.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm sure they're not knocked down in vain. What I'm saying is, because of the desirability of our area, maybe we can fence these things out to the incomers. That's all.
Yes.
That's a good point.
We received
What
that.
you're saying is that we don't have to dance with the first person.
That's
that asks us
correct.
to
That's
dance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's a very good point.
One more question.
I'm glad you brought it up.
With the sale app and now the more shovel-ready projects, have that been updated to show, do people who are looking at that know that something has changed with this site?
So not only are we updating the sale app, we are also updating our economic development website. And next week, at our first monthly meeting, which we call Let's Talk Business, which will be a monthly meeting that the Economic Development Office holds the first Friday of every month at the Renaissance, we will unveil the new website. That new website will also incorporate a desktop function of the sale app, so that you can do the search and you should see updated pictures of the site. Also, similar to what Mr. Wright was speaking, we will have drone video showing what this looked like from start to finish, and that's something that we can market out as well when it comes to these sites.
Great. All right. While you're standing, somebody mentioned ribbon cutting, and there is a ribbon cutting tomorrow at
Yes,
VIG.
at the port.
Yeah.
Virginia International Gateway. Did you all get that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that went out.
Yeah. I encourage you to go if you can.
And the last bus will leave from the site at 1:30. So they gave you
1:50, I
direction.
think.
1:15?
It was 1:50
1:50, okay.
with the ceremony starting at 2.
2 o'clock, okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
When you have a city and you got
Mr. Boomer.
folk like 7-Eleven and Wow finding sites that they want to move to, these folk have done their research. They know where this city's going. They're futurists. That's why they're making this money. So we got to get there with them. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's leave the old mentality there, because we're in a new place in time and space.
Right. You're
You're
right.
right. Thanks, Mr.
Good point.
I have just one more thing, Mayor. In your CMR for tomorrow night, you have a item number 19276. Just a reminder, I'll go over it again tomorrow, but so that you have endorsed an EDA resolution regarding the Victory site. So that is on your agenda for tomorrow, and I'll go over the others tomorrow.
And I know Shannon has got a matter for us to consider.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to propose to change or remove the ban on the non-agenda speakers, the videotaping of the non-agenda speakers. And just so we can keep things in order, as orderly as possible, I would ask that we would ask our city attorney to put together some appropriate language to make sure that, we don't get too far off of what the discussion is all about, so that we can still give everyone a time to be seen and heard.
Good.
Write some language.
So your request with the consensus of council to ask the city attorney to draft up a change to our council rules to
Okay.
do two things. One, to bring back the televising, but for the non-agenda speakers, they got to speak to something that's germane to city council. It can't be the loss of tuna in the Japanese sea. or
Okay,
something.
okay.
Unless they went to Japan. And
And it impacts
tuna that came from
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
have that back, the first meeting, the first Monday meeting in
August,
August?
which is
so
the
we
12th.
can take action that Tuesday, and
And that would be the 13th, so we've got it.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Any other business? Then we will adjourn this meeting and convene tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Did you understand what you're saying? You're saying, Mr.
Bring back the video for non-agenda
Right.
But you want, he wants.